welcome to dinner party tonight. So today we are going to make a lovely winter repast. We're going to do something that's going to get people's seeds in their brains growing, which is what winter is all about. It's about germinating. So we're going to have a fabulous feast, beginning with something called Devils on Horseback. What's that? No one knew. Well, a lot of people know. Then we're going to have a raised vegetable curry pie or hot crust pie, which is completely vegetarian. Then we're going to have a very bright celery salad that will sort of karate chop through the richness of the pie. Then for dessert, we're going to have some sugar cookies. Sounds pretty ordinary. Well, guess what? They have pink peppercorns flecked throughout them. Who could have guessed that? They're delicious. And actually, I made them for Brandon, and he said there weren't enough peppercorns. So Brandon, I'm putting more peppercorns in them. Let's make vanilla peppercorn cookies. Now, these are essentially icebox cookies. You roll them into a roll, and you put them in the icebox, and then you slice cookies off of them. These have a very delicious flavor. They're almost spicy. The first thing we're gonna do is take 1 1/4 sticks of butter. Don't be afraid. This is kind of a classic sugar cookie. Madeline and I made these at Christmas, and then she proceeded to go home and make like 5 batches of them and decorate them, and much fancier than me. This is a foolproof recipe. I'm now going to add a cup of sugar, and I'm just gonna cream this pretty good. Just gonna scrape down the sides. So you see, they've covered the windows because of the blazing sun that comes in the back, and the dog is very upset because this is his baking time, when he bakes in the sun. Thanks, Adam and Nick. Okay, add an egg. I'm gonna put a little vanilla in here. I'm just gonna put in, as Jamie would say, a glug. These you can make way in advance, and you can store them in the refrigerador or icebox, or you can wrap them very nicely and freeze the logs. If you had to appropriate one rock star's style, and you could look as good as they do in that style, whose style would you pick? David Bowie, or possibly Freddie, because I would love to wear that bodysuit, the black one. Now I'm going to add a cup of flour with quite a bit of salt in it, and a teaspoon of baking powder. Now, you're a dinner partier, so you know not to store your baking soda or use the baking soda that's in the refrigerator for anything but deodorizing the refrigerator. You should keep your leaveners tightly sealed, and if they're over 8 months or so, you should throw them out. They're not gonna work. So here's a teaspoon of that. I'm just gonna dump this in here, essentially, and mix it together. And I'm going to start low and possibly do this, which is gonna make the shot really funny. Hold on. And when this is all mixed together into a dough, I'm gonna show you the peppercorns. Okay, that looks doughy to me. Now, pink peppercorns. Ha, 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 hi, 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 hi. I watched Hot Tub Time Machine last night. First of all, it's awesome. It's great. Right, Adam? Okay, it's great. Secondly, they played that famous Talking Head song at the very end of the movie. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground, into the blue again after the money's gone. Once in a lifetime, baby. It's a great song. Pink peppercorns. Well, they're actually the fruit of a tree, dried. Now, you can grind them in a grinder, like a pepper grinder, which you use only for pink peppercorns, or you can use a mortar and pestle. This is my one that I use the most. It's very heavy, and you use it to make chili paste and stuff like that. Word to the wise. Don't sit in front of the TV and go like this with it on your face, because you'll forget that you ground chili peppers with it. I researched for a smaller one, because this is quite large, and I found this really super cute Japanese one that has a textured bottom, which I thought was very interesting. So I'm gonna do a little in both because I wanna sort of inaugurate this one. But anyway, you're just gonna put in quite a lot of peppercorns because Brandon said there weren't enough. So we're gonna do like this. It's about that much peppercorns. And I'm just gonna go like this. So you want these pieces to be slightly small. They're gonna soften in the baking process, but you don't want big, huge, whole peppercorns. I mean, 1 or 2 is okay. So then once it gets fairly broken up, I can do this, and it works perfectly. That's why it's an ancient item, and it works. Now, if these were chilies and I kept going, it would turn into a paste, and I would put ginger and, you know. Now, just for interest's sake, I've never used this, so I just want to see what happens. If it's easier or harder. Let's see. Ooh, it's much easier. The textured bottom is amazing. Wow. However, it's too small. So this is only for very, very small things. And now I'm just gonna lift up the dough and I'm gonna sprinkle this in. It doesn't really matter because you're gonna mix it again. They have oil in them, so it's a little bit sticky. It's a bit sticky. Here we go. I'm now mixing this in. Oh, there we go. You know what warms the cockles of my heart is that you guys made stuff from our show over Christmas. That was beautiful. And I loved getting the photos and stuff of stuff you made that you were scared to make. One of my actors, John, he and his brother made the Wellington, as many of you did, and it came out so perfectly. I couldn't believe his brother never made a Wellington before. That was impressive. Here's our dough. Look at that. Why is the light changing?
It's the sun.
Oh, okay. Now, you're gonna divide this into 2, like this. Now, here's the key. You're gonna roll this into a cylinder and press it a little bit hard in the beginning because you wanna make sure it doesn't have cracks inside. Rollin', 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 keep them doggies rollin', rawhide. And think how big you want your cookies to be. We're gonna store them upright so they continue to compact as they chill. Now, the reason you have to chill them is because if you tried to slice this now, it would just flatten into a pancake. You need the butter to chill so that you can cut it. You're gonna roll it. And then you're gonna store it like that. Because otherwise it'll get a flat side. Look at those beauties. Oh, they smell divine. Okay, now I'm gonna put them in the fridge. Upright. And if you lean them against something cold, it's also not a crazy idea. But by the magic of television, I happen to have one right here. So we're gonna cut these. So before we cut the cookies, I would just want to tell you, do not wash your mortar and pestle, okay? Wipe it out. And I should have kept this for sweet things, but now I have 2 that are somewhat savory. But what happens to your mortar and pestle is that it starts to almost be like a seasoned pan. So when you start putting your chili paste in there, it will carry some slight notion of 100 other chili pastes, right? Oh, it smells so good, this one. It smells like ginger and peppercorns and chilies. Ooh, wow, that's a beautiful smell. Cut these sort of thick. How beautiful is that, okay? Turn it. I love to make them in different thicknesses. Keep turning it. And then these get baked. They'll puff up a little bit and then they'll kind of sink down. They do spread a tiny bit. I'm gonna put them in the oven for about 6 minutes, 8 minutes. You want it to be slightly brown around the edges. These are all kinds of crazy different thicknesses, which is hilarious. But anyway, peppercorns going in the oven. In they go, 350 preheated. So I'm gonna put a timer for 7 minutes. Peppercorn cookies are ready. So I put them too close together and I cut them at all different sizes. Not recommended. Put them on a rack until they crisp up in a lovely way. And the last one, hooray, the last one today. Let those cool, they'll really, really crisp up. See how beautiful that is? Sort of a floral, really delightful. Vanilla peppercorn cookies. They go very good with buttermilk sorbet, which we've made, or any kind of ice cream. You can make a beautiful dessert with these. Ice cream sandwich with these would be amazing. Let's make a hot water crust raised vegetable curry pie. If you watch Great British Baking Show, you will have seen several raised pies. What does that mean, raised pies? It means that you don't roll it out, you pull it up the sides of the container. Now, you can roll it a little bit and put it in. All it means is that it's hand raised, which is the other name for those pies, hand raised. Back in the day, before the 1400s, a lot of food was cooked in inedible pastry, like rock hard pastry, that also preserved the item so that they were called coffins, actually. So they would eat the food out of it. And then eventually people got slightly better at the coffin and they started breaking off pieces of the coffin and eating the food with it. And then slowly they started making the coffin part of the meal. And then we started having hot water crust, which actually holds in flavors and liquids very, very successfully, unlike a short crust, regular short crust that could easily leak. This is a robust, very bullish pastry. It has some caveats. Number one, if you let it get cool, it will crumble. It will not raise. So once you've made your dough, you have to kind of continue. So that is why I would suggest making your filling in advance. Now you can go and look up a million fillings for hot water crust pies if you'd like. When I lived in England, I used to love steak and kidney pie, which is a raised pie, pork pie, hence the name pork pie hat. But a pork pie made correctly is incredible. It's like pork pate inside of buttery, I mean, it's amazing. But so we're gonna make a vegetable curry pie. Now, if you may watch the show, as we said, Great British Baking Show or Great British Bake Off, you'll know that the layering is a big winner. It's not that important. We're gonna try to layer it. If it melds, okay? But trying to do those layers when you cut it so it's spectacular, But we're gonna try to do that. And our layers are gonna be some stuff that I made already last night, which is curried potatoes, some curried carrots, which look very similar, except they're orange, tomato curry, which is what I cooked that stuff in. And then I'm going to do a pea and onion layer. And I'm going to sort of do a creamy sauce, very slightly, with a little bit of flour to just stick it together a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to saute these up first. And everything else is ready. This is the same curry that we made when we made curry, but you can really do any filling you want, including just mixed together vegetables. Just the joy of the little crimped top and the delicious pastry, and it's a very lovely winter meal. So let's make it together. Hot pan, olive oil. Yes. So I'm gonna make a little sort of pea bechamel, a little bit of butter, peas, onions. I'm basically just sauteing this with a little bit of salt. Seems like a weird way to season this, but oh well. Now, a raised pie has to be served cold or room temperature. If you cut it hot, disaster. One of the things people do is they pour gelatin, a little bit of liquid gelatin with stock in the hole in the top to gel the contents so it doesn't slip out. You can do that. Then it makes it more of like a picnic pie that will slice very like cleanly, but we don't need to do that. This is what I call my mise en place butter. I keep it at room temperature. A little bit of butter, and I'm going to put a teeny bit of something called anchoor powder, which is ground up and dried very young mangoes, which I should have toasted first, but I didn't, and it's not the end of the world. This is anchoor powder. Just a little bit. And it has a very bright, sort of delicious, almost lemony flavor, almost like turmeric. Okay, let this kind of saute for a little bit. And then we're just going to make a sauce in the bottom here so that it sticks together as a layer. Oh, last night when I was watching a 90 Day Fiancé, there was on my Citizen app, which I don't know if it's all over America, but there's an app where it's like a police scanner basically, and they tell you what's happening in your neighborhood. And it's usually pedestrian struck by bicycle or something. So this said shots fired in the West Village, quite near me. And in fact, extremely near me. So I was waiting and waiting for people to comment, right? Do you know what it was? It was somebody's old car. I'm gonna put a tiny bit of flour in here just to make a sort of a phony bechamel. Stir, 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 stir. Oh, stir, 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 stir. That looks pretty thick to me. I'm just gonna taste it. Put in a little bit of vermouth. Okay, there's our fourth filling, peas. All right, we did good, so let's continue. We're gonna start by melting some fat in some water, the hot water part, okay? Traditionally, you use lard, which is increasingly difficult to find. You can get it in Latino bodegas. You can buy it there. And you can also buy it in good grocery stores, but it's hard to find. People are scared of it. I'm actually gonna use vegetable shortening, which is vegan, by the way. However, nothing else is vegan because we're using butter, but you don't have to use the butter. But I'm gonna use half shortening, half butter. I need 8 tablespoons of fat. Ooh, it's kind of satisfying. There's 1, 2, I'm guesstimating, as you can see. That's probably 3, actually. And a smaller one. And then I'm going to put 4 tablespoons of butter in there as well. So I looked it up last night. Can you substitute Crisco for lard? And they said, yeah, it's the same measurement. We're just going to melt this and then boil it a little bit. We want it hot. So I'm gonna gently melt it and then I'm gonna boil it. So we're gonna let that do its thing. I wanna show you an amazing piece of equipment, okay? You don't need this. You can do it in any pie thing you want. One of the things about a raised pie is that they're traditionally quite tall, which is why you use the hot water crust, because it's robust. This is an amazing thing, which is a raised pie tin. So you put your dough in here and you bring it up the sides, you make your beautiful pie. Look how brilliantly designed this is, so simple. Halfway through cooking it, you want the sides to cook because it's quite high. You don't want it to be beautifully brown on the top and bottom, let's say, and blonde on the sides. So what do? Oh, you take the sides off. Then it cooks like that in the oven. Oh, how on earth will I ever get it out? Oh. And then you let it cool and you just push it off this thing. So we are just gonna prepare this amazing invention with a little bit of Crisco because you need Crisco. You can use butter, but it'll burn. So don't. I'm gonna just put a little bit of Crisco on a paper towel and I'm gonna grease it, grease it, grease it, grease it, grease it, grease it, rawhide. You can make all of this in advance. You know, you can make it the night before. And just bring it out and let it come to room temperature. It'll be beautifully set at that point. Here we go. I'm reassembling it. Here we go, prepared. We're now going to make the crust. I have approximately 4 cups of flour, 3 5/8. I'm just gonna put a little salt in here. And we're gonna put an egg in here as well. Boop. Kind of just vaguely combining that. I'm gonna get the hot fat. Okay, it's quite hot, So I'm actually going to use this first. Word to the wise, once you do this, the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be. So you want to work sort of quickly, and then as soon as you can, put your hands in here, as soon as it's not too hot. I'm not really overworking it, guys, okay? I'm just slightly working it. Okay, I'm just going to dump this out. Don't worry if it looks feathery, it's okay. Work it a little bit here, not too much, until it's silky. So push, turn, push, turn, push, turn, push, turn. All right, looks pretty good to me. Now, how much do you think we need to reserve to cover this top? That much? Like that? So you want to keep this super warm. I'm just putting a tiny bit of flour down. I'm going to roll it out slightly. Keep it moving. Unlike pastry, this is pretty robust. But if it gets cold, it will start to crumble. So I'm basically rolling it into an easier shape to raise out of there. Well, this is certainly working out well so far. Here we go. Push it down so it's hitting the ground. Don't worry about any folds or mess, okay? Push it with your knuckles into the corners. Make sure you have slack. There you go. You want it to be thick because you're putting a lot of stuff in here. And now I'm just raising it. I'm thinning the sides. Oh, I saw the pan, so I'm going to fill in that hole a little bit. You don't want leaks down here. Don't worry about this. Nobody will see this. Raise, raise, raise the raised pie. Raise, raise, raise the raised pie. Raise, raise, raise the raised pie. Ba-da-da-dum. Raise, raise the raised pie. I'm just feeling to see if it's the same thickness. I'm going to trim the top. So I'm going to make it have a small lip over the top so I can attach the lid. But it's plenty thick, so I can cut it like this. It's fine. Now, these are the scraps. We can cut little shapes out of them if we so choose. I'm going to wrap it quickly, and I'm going to quickly roll the oval, the top, so that we at least have the oval. This is still quite hot. I'm moving quickly because I don't want it to cool off too much. I'm covering this with saran wrap, and then we're going to fill our pie. Potatoes, peas, carrots. Here's the potato. So I'm doing this in a very nice way. I'm doing a layer of potatoes on the bottom, trying to make it look nice.
Don't eat it, Randy.
Why? It needs a little salt, which I didn't realize. Let me seal the bottom a little better with potatoes. How cute is that? So a lot of peas or some peas? A layer of peas. Look at that. You guys, the peas are absolutely perfect. That's a perfect consistency. Carrots, all the carrots. Now I know this curry needs a tiny bit of salt, so I'm going to take care of that right now. I have potatoes for the top. If you look in a cookbook, it says skill level needs skill or skill. It doesn't really need skill, it needs patience. A thin layer of peas on top. I'm going to put a tiny bit of salt, and I'm going to put a little teeny weeny bit of the magic spice Aleppo pepper on top, which is going to brighten the whole pie. Oh, should I put a little curry in? The consistency of the pastry is beginning to change. Now what I'm doing is pinching the two pieces together. Okay, looks pretty to me, right? The oven should be at 400. Okay, I'm going to cut 2 holes in it to vent it. I was supposed to glue it with egg. Oh well. I was supposed to glue the top on with beaten egg yolk, but we're just taking a chance that it's going to work. I made a mistake, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to re-pierce those holes. Now we have an opportunity to cut little leaves and stuff, which I actually think I have. Hold on. Let's see. Oops. Ha! I bought these at Williams-Sonoma so freaking long ago, I can't even tell you. Always put an uneven number. I'm gonna put this in the middle. So when the top is nice and golden, I'm going to remove the sides, which hopefully will remove, even though I've now glued them on with egg. Salt on top. Redo my piercings. Look at that, not bad. Curry pie, goodbye. Curry pie, goodbye. I'm gonna cook this until the top is brown and quite cooked, and then I'm gonna hopefully slip the sides out and just wait for the sides to get brown. Oh, it looks pretty beautiful. I'm just gonna gently, ooh. Holy cow. This one came off. God! I mean, that's like out of a frickin' magazine. I'm really proud of that. I think you guys will enjoy that later when we have a wine and stuff. Now with the meat ones, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's much harder because the meat exudes fluid. I think a vegetarian one is probably much easier. So we're just leaving this in for a little bit more so that the sides can get as beautiful as the top. I'm just gonna tint the edges because they're getting slightly caught. Go to sleep, little pie. Hey, how come nobody listens to Kate Bush anymore? How did somebody that amazing become unfamous? How does that even happen? Do you know that song, Hello Earth? Check it out. Not to mention Running Up That Hill, or Cloud Busting, or Army Dreamers. I mean, Jesus. I don't know about you, but I love celery, okay? It gets disparaged, but it's underused. So we're gonna make a beautiful little bright celery, almost like a condiment. I'm gonna make a small amount of it. It's a lovely addition to a meal that has some richness, you know, because we're gonna make a sort of citrusy, lemony, gingery, radishy, romaine-y celery side. Cut them in a toothsome round. I would make this not in the morning before work, but when you first get home. It should meld a little bit. And you can make any additions you'd like. You could put charred broccoli from charred broccoli salad that we made. You could put broccoli heads just lightly steamed and cooled in it. You could put really anything. Just remember, it's meant to be crunchy and bright. Now I'm just gonna cut celery. Lynn, after we shot the other day, Lynn hung out. I forced Lynn to watch the end episode of the documentary about the Night Stalker that we talked about. I mean, one of the reasons he's scary is because he's a killer, and another reason he's scary is because he had no MO. Not like, even like Son of Sam had an MO, you know? Way of working, modus operandi. I went to school in England, as has been ad nauseum told to people, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm absolutely convinced that the Latin is indispensable in terms of communication and understanding of our language. So if your kid can tolerate it, I would teach them Latin. I'm just cutting off the super leafy parts. That's fine, that's fine. Now I'm using the leaves of the celery because they have such a beautiful flavor. People don't use them enough. I use them on the pickle plates in the summer. It's just nice to think of fun things to do with something that you've looked at a million times, you know? I'm gonna cut this into a similar size. This is washed, of course. I'm gonna put in the celery, kind of mix it a little bit. I'm gonna peel this ginger, grate a little bit of this ginger. I'm gonna get my vinaigrette. It's real simple vinaigrette, into which I'm going to put this ginger. It's a lot of ginger. This is just oil, rice vinegar. I used rice vinegar because I wanted a flavor profile for today. the ginger I just put in and a little bit of mustard. And I'm now going to put in a little ponzu, which is essentially lemony soy sauce. Okay, and I'm going to put a little squirt of lemon. This is togarashi, our famous togarashi. I'm just going to sprinkle a little togarashi on here, which is different kinds of chilies and black sesame seeds, and it just adds wonder to everything. You can allow your guests to dress it, but I am going to dress this. Don't overdress. You can always put on more, but you can't take it away. And there's nothing worse in the salad world than an overdressed salad. So this is a lovely radishy and celery-based salad, perfect with something that's a little bit intense, because it'll karate chop through it. I'm going to put this in the fridge to kind of mind meld with itself. You don't want it to mind meld for too long because it's a salad and you want to keep it bright. Celery salad. I'm taking her out. Heed my warning. This must cool to completely room temperature. Do not try to cut this when it's warm. You will regret it. You could serve this at room temperature, or you could serve it cold. It's curry, so I would serve it at room temperature. But you know, because it's vegetables, it might cut better than the meat one. You could probably serve it a little bit warm if you wanted. I don't know how you're supposed to lift this, except maybe wait until it's cool. But this piece comes out, remember. I'm very pleased with you. Hello, little pie. Let's make devils on horseback. What do you think about that? Yes. He's deaf as a post. He likes it if you talk right up against his face, because then he can hear you. Right, poop face? What do you think about all these people in the kitchen? I know. All right, let's make devils on horseback. There's another dish called angels on horseback, which is essentially the same thing, but with an oyster involved, which I'll tell you about in a minute. A devil on horseback is a date in bacon. Now, some people put cheese here. I think the date is sweet and delicious enough to simply wrap in bacon. So we're going to do devils on horseback dinner party tonight style, which is simple, elegant, quick, and easy. Here we go. Take a little dish. Put some water in it, because you're going to soak your toothpicks so they don't burn. There, just soak those while you're doing this. Now, we're going to pre-cook the bacon a little teeny bit, because I don't want the dates to burn. We're not going to use a lot of pieces of bacon because the dates are quite small. See how small they are? I'm going to cook probably 4 pieces of bacon. Now, I learned something very interesting about 5 years ago. Cook bacon in the oven. It doesn't make a mess. So I'm just going to use a lined sheet here, and I'm going to put the bacon here. I'm just going to cook it until it's a little bit cooked. Then you just take that wrapper and throw it in the garbage, and you're done. You don't have to clean your whole stovetop. So there's 4 pieces of bacon. Should we do another one? Here's 5 pieces of bacon. I have the oven at 400 convection. These are pitted. Now, as I told you, people put cream cheese here. I find that disgusting. I'm tempted to crack pepper in here. Am I crazy? I don't think so. So this is my sort of par-cooked bacon, which I'm going to remove to a paper towel to drain, don't you know? So our bacon is draining, 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 and it's handleable. Okay, I'm just opening up the dates a little bit. Where's the cut? There it is. I wonder if they have a machine that does this, or if it's a person. Whoever you are. Whoever you are. I've always depended upon the kindness of strangers. The better line is, you are not the gentleman I expected. I think I can cover use one for two, so I'm just gonna go like this. I'm gonna roll the date in the bacon. Comme ça. The dates are a little small because they're organic, and I'm gonna stick a toothpick in it. Right at the seam, please. Boom. This can be smallerized because the dates are quite dainty. The dates are quite dainty. There we go. These make a very decadent cocktail snack. They should be quite crispy, okay, almost crunchy. And the difference between an angel and a devil is that this is an oyster. She once had me. That doesn't sound like a McCartney melody, but there's very few that aren't. I'm putting them in the oven, quite hot. Devils on horseback. Leonard just said, "Why don't you drink, Mom? That's what you're good at." At the beginning of your dinner party, you cannot be making cocktails. You have to assign somebody to make your cocktails, or you have to have them pre-batched. The cocktail we're going to discover and talk about this evening is called a boulevardier, which is a person who walks on the boulevard, which I think is a fabulous name. And it's a very simple ingredients, which is sweet vermouth, bourbon, Campari. And we're going to stir it over ice, and we're going to pour it into a glass that's going to be chilled with an ice cube in it. 2 parts bourbon, 1 part Campari, 1 part sweet vermouth. That's like a cartoon, right? I'm just going to taste it. It should have a lovely, it's like a Negroni with bourbon, but it should have a, it's not like a Negroni. It isn't a Negroni. Stir till it's nice and chilled. I'm going to garnish it with a piece of orange rind from a washed orange, please. Boulevardier. Voila. So my Boulevardier was pretty good. But I want to clue you in on something that's kind of cool and fun and interesting and supportive. A lot of the restaurants that can't have people inside have takeout. And one of the things that they are providing are pre-mixed cocktails. My favorite restaurant, which is Via Carota or Isodi or Buvette, they provide the most gorgeous drinks. Now, these are used because I've been drinking them, but this is their Boulevardier, and this is something they call a quasi-Negroni because I think it doesn't have red vermouth in it or something. I forget what it is, but these are, oh, divine. Now, guess what? It takes the work out of your cocktail hour, right? Because you've got the cocktails. All you need is a cube of ice. And also, it's a nice thing to add on to your order. So check, even the pizza places are doing it. Just check and see if they offer some funny little house drink. And order it with your takeout, because I discovered these that way. And these are superb. And I gave them as gifts at Christmas. I mean, it was amazing. Continuing with cocktails. Mr. Lee of Bleecker Farm, the illustrious hero of Bleecker Street, gave me for Christmas and New Year's this incredible Korean, beautiful gift set. And I wanted to try it on the show. First of all, super cute cups. Myungjak Bokbunja is made from select raspberries, especially grown in yellow soil zone with ocean breeze. Relax and enjoy the new experience you never tasted before. Oh, it's the color of wine. Wow. Wow, that's kind of incredible. It tastes like raspberry claret, essentially. But it's not that sweet. It's like if claret was faintly flavored with raspberry. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Wow. So here they are. I cooked them until the bacon seemed, crispy, which it is. Not too crispy so it breaks apart. Now the discussion about whether you leave the toothpicks in, the toothpick people won. Some of them were eaten and they're apparently okay without the cheese. Maybe a little bit of greasy nut thing in the middle would be nice. But I think that they're pretty tasty, right? I wouldn't serve them stone cold. If you cannot time them for your guests, I would just quickly warm them in the oven. Don't cook them anymore, but just quickly warm them. If you're warming other apps or whatever, keep these slightly warm, okay? Devil's on horseback, more like a porcupine on a plate. Today we made a beautiful appetizer called Wicked Devils on Horseback. Then for our main course, we had a delectable vegetable curry, hand-raised pie, crispy, unctuous, and delicious. And we served that with a bright and crisp celery salad with radishes and romaine hearts and a ponzu dressing. And then for dessert, vanilla sugar cookies flecked with pink peppercorns, the floral spicy fruit. What a meal. Thank you guys so much for watching Dinner Party Tonight. We made a great winter meal today because it's the end of winter. Winter is starting to end, but that's Mom's favorite season. But anyways, spring is coming. April is the cruelest month, said T.S. Eliot, and he wasn't lying. We want to thank you again for commenting, liking, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? And also, apparently you're supposed to push the bell, right, Reggie? If you push the bell, it's better for us. So if you push the bell, I don't know, if you feel like it, push the bell like this, bing, right, Leonard? Thank you for watching Dinner Party Tonight. We'll be back soon. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground, into the blue again after the money's gone. Once in a lifetime, baby.